Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me for this webinar on using DocsPlus for exam access. My name is Gemma. I'm the Senior Customer Experience Consultant at Crick Software. So I support our existing customers in using DocsPlus effectively, and I also create and manage the training resources that are available on our website. I'm joined today by my colleagues Andrew and Joe, and they'll be answering your questions throughout this webinar. So today we've got about 30 minutes, and during that time we're going to be looking at some of the features of DocsPlus that are commonly used to support learners in exams as part of their access arrangements. So we've got people attending today from all around the world, so we're not going to focus on any particular exam board or governing body. Although if you are interested in how that impacts on exam usage, we do have resources available on that. And if you ask Andrew or Joe, they will be able to send you links. Okay, so we're going to look at the features in DocsPlus that you can use in place of a reader, the resources or features that you can use in place of a scribe, and how DocsPlus can be used as just a word processor in exams as well. And then we'll look at how you can change the settings to best suit individual students' needs and to meet the requirements of different exam boards. Okay. So first of all, a little bit of background to Crick Software, the company. So we've been around since 1993, and the company was originally created by John and Anne Crick, who were both working as teachers. And John was working in a special school with children with physical disabilities. So that's where the initial idea for our software came from. And over the years, we've improved DocsPlus, we've added more features, and it's now widely used to support both students with special needs, but also to support literacy in general in the classroom. So I've just put our contact information on the screen quickly now, if anybody would like to make a note of it. It's worth knowing that we will be making a recording available to everybody who signed up through Zoom in the next couple of days. If you have any questions through the webinar, please do feel free to ask. As I mentioned, Andrew and Joe are available to answer your questions. And if you're attending through Zoom today, you can ask questions through the Q&A function. So that's a button with two speech bubbles, if you're not too familiar with Zoom. If you're attending through Facebook and you have a question, you can leave your question as a comment beneath the video on the Facebook page. The recording will also be available shortly after the end of the webinar on the Facebook pages. If you have a question after the webinar, you can give us a call on one of the office numbers just here. You can email me directly. And there's also lots of help and advice available on our website. A few things to note before we go straight into DocsPlus. So I am using the UK version of DocsPlus today. So the voices, the spellings, they will be the English ones, but they are available for other regions. There are options for different regions. And we'll be looking at how to access DocsPlus on different devices. So on laptops and desktop PCs, you can access DocsPlus. And on iPads and Chromebooks, you can access the DocsPlus app. Now, typically, we see people using DocsPlus in exams on PCs, but we will be looking at how these features work on different devices. So we'll start off by having a look at how DocsPlus can be used in place of a reader, and we're starting off on the PC version. So the first thing we'll need to do is open up the PDF, so with the exam paper. So we do recommend that you request a digital PDF of your exam paper from the exam board. It ensures you get the highest quality version. However, if you do need to scan it in, do make sure that you're scanning the document as a text document rather than as an image to ensure that it will work with DocsPlus. Once you have your document, you will need to get it onto the device that you're using. So whether you're downloading the paper directly from a hub onto the device, or you might be moving it using an encrypted USB, for example, you'll need to go to Browse here in the Quick Start menu to access your File Explorer. So here you can navigate the different files to find where you've placed that file. So you can see I've got a couple of exam papers here. Now, these are English papers, so we're not going to use those today. Instead, we're going to use this text here, the first chapter of Oliver Twist. So I'm just going to double click that, and that will automatically open up in the doc reader in DocsPlus. So we can now access this text. So this might make up part of an English literature paper, for example. To make this easier for us to use, there are a few options in terms of navigating the document. So we can scroll through the document, for example. We can use these arrows here in the top left of the screen to move between the 2 pages of this first chapter of Oliver Twist. And over here on the right-hand side, we can zoom in, we can zoom out, and we can use this button here to rotate the paper, for example, particularly handy if you have scanned in the paper. We can fit the whole page on the screen, and we can fit to the width of the page. Okay, so to then access the text, to hear the text read out, we can highlight the section we want to hear, and then we go to this read button here that looks like a speaker. So when I click that,
for a long time after it was ushered into this world of sorrow and trouble by the parish surgeon, it remained a matter of considerable doubt whether the child would survive to bear any name at all.
Okay, and DocsPlus will then read it out for us. And you'll notice that it's highlighting the text as it reads it out as well, to help the student follow along and identify any key vocabulary that they might need. So it's very flexible. We might just be highlighting individual words that we're struggling with. It might be a short section.
Matter of considerable doubt.
It might be a full sentence, a full paragraph, or if we really wanted to, we can highlight the whole text with Control-A, and we can hear that whole text read out. Now, it may be that we need to make some adjustments to the speech to make it more accessible for the student who's using DocsPlus. So we can change the speech settings, and that's something that we'll be looking at a little later on in the webinar. Okay. If we go to the DocsPlus app now, we'll have a look at how this feature works on iPads and Chromebooks. So just to note, it is the same app that you use on iPads and on Chromebooks. They work almost identically. The main differences are around how with iPads you are tapping the screen, and for Chromebooks you're clicking and you have a physical keyboard. So this is the DocsPlus app at the moment. I've got my on-screen keyboard available at the bottom of the screen, but Chromebook users, it would look more like this. And here in the top toolbar, we've got a document tab and we've got a doc reader tab. And the first time you access the doc reader, you do get these instructions. Okay, so it does help you out with getting started with the doc reader. So I'm going to open up that same first chapter of Oliver Twist. So to open a PDF, we go to the folder icon up here in the top left of our screen, and we'll need to go into My Files. Now, today we've got my PC version of my File Explorer, but on an iPad, you would see the iPad File Explorer, and on a Chromebook, you'd be able to access the Chromebook File Explorer. So I've just selected that same Oliver Twist Chapter 1 document, and then we can use it in the same way. So we can highlight the text we want to hear read out and go to our read button, which looks very similar up here in the top toolbar.
For a long time after it was ushered into this world of sorrow and trouble by the parish surgeon, it remained a matter of considerable doubt whether the child would survive to bear any name at all.
Okay, so we've got the same voices available to us, whichever device we're using. and it's still highlighting that text as it's reading out to help students follow along. Okay. If we, in terms of navigating the document in the doc reader again, so you'll see it's up here. We can move between the two pages in the top right rather than the top left this time. But we've still got those arrows to move between the two pages. And we go to this button here to adjust the view. So we can zoom in, we can zoom out, we can fit to the width of the page or the full page, and we can rotate the document if we need to. Okay, so that's using the reader aspect of DocsPlus, and it's worth noting that if we are using the word processing part of DocsPlus as well, so let me just type in a quick sentence here. Oliver was born in a workhouse. Put in my punctuation to end my sentence.
Oliver was born in a workhouse.
DocsPlus will also read back the sentences that the student types in so they can check that they're happy with what they've written. Okay, so we can use DocsPlus as just a word processor, and we can move between our doc reader and our document with these two tabs in the very bottom left of our screen. On a PC, so on a laptop or a desktop, we also have this button here. This is called Split View. And this allows us to see both our document, our word processor, and our PDF at the same time. We can adjust the proportion of the page taken up by each by dragging the bar, and we can zoom in or out, just as we did when it was full screen. So I like to zoom out a little more when I'm using split view. It's a little bit easier to navigate. Okay, so this is a great way to help students to be able to fill in their answers and access the text at the same time. And I can come out of split view by going to that same button. Now we can't use split view in the app, because the screens are much smaller on iPads and Chromebooks. There wouldn't be enough space for it to be effective, but we can move between the document and the doc reader using the tabs up here in our top toolbar, and then right into our document from here, whether we're using our physical keyboard or our on-screen keyboard. Okay. If we are entitled to a scribe, we can use the word processor with some support tools. So we can use the spell check and we can use the predictor. So I'm back on the PC version now. The first thing I'm going to do is type in a quick sentence again. So Oliver, let's go here. He wanted more rule. Okay, I have misspelled rule. Okay, we've got our red underline to show that we have misspelled it. We can right click to open up our spell check, and we can access the speech feedback in the spell check as well by right clicking the suggestions that are offered.
Gruel.
And then click to use the suggestion to make a correction in our writing. Okay. So that's our spell check. We can also access the predictor with this button here. Okay, so you can see that when I turn that on, it's offering me a word that I might want to use. Now I'm going to go for because instead, and you can see as I'm writing, it's offering me those words. So it's offering me writing support as well as spelling support. So he was is coming up there before I type anything else. Oops. Okay, and we can right click these
Hungry
to use them in our writing as well. So we can right click on the Chromebook as well. We don't have a right click on the iPad, so instead you can turn on a tool called SoundShift to allow students to access that speech support in the predictor and spell check, which we'll look at how you can add that in when we're looking at the settings. So we've seen how we can use the support tools in the word processor, but some exam boards allow us to use editable or interactive PDFs instead. So we're not having to go between a document and a PDF. And we can use those in DocsPlus as well. So we'll have a look at how that works now. So to open an editable PDF, I'm going to go to my folder icon in the very top left of the screen. This takes me to my file explorer, and you can see chapter 2 of Oliver Twist I've labeled as editable. Okay, so chapter 2 is a much longer chapter actually. We're up to 7 pages now, so we'll quickly jump to the end of the chapter, and you can see beneath these 2 questions we have some purple boxes where we can type in our answers. So we just click to select a text box and we can start typing our response. So that same spelling mistake there, we can again right click to access our spell check within the editable PDF. Let's just fill in the because, and we can access the predictor with that same predictor button up here in the top toolbar. Okay, you can see that it's now offering me some options to continue my sentence. When I put in the punctuation to end my sentence,
Oliver asked for more gruel because he was hungry.
We can hear that whole sentence read back for us to make sure that we're happy with it. So we've got all of those support options available in one place. Editable PDFs can also be accessed through the DocsPlus app. So we'll open that up now quickly. So I'm just going to go back to my doc reader, back to my folder icon, and it's in my files just here. Okay, so that same chapter, we can access all of that speech support when going through the text. And then we can respond to the questions by typing directly into the PDF. Again, we can access the spell check in the editable PDF, and we can turn on the predictor with this button up here. Okay, so we've still got all of those support tools available to us. Okay, so we've had a look at the main features that are used to support students during exams. Let's have a look now at the different settings that we can change. And we're first going to look at the settings we can change to make DocsPlus easier to access for our individual students. So we'll start on PC again. And the first thing we need to do is go to Options up here in the top of the screen to open the Options ribbon. And these are the settings that we can change. So if I go into Speech, first of all, I can change the speech settings. So we've seen that DocsPlus is reading our sentences back for us, but we can also tell DocsPlus to read back each individual word when we put in a space, or each letter as we type, and we can have any combination of those turned on or off. We can choose the default voice here, and we can adjust the speed of the voice with the slider here. If I go to the predictor settings, we can adjust the vocabulary offered by the predictor. So by default, it's set to this 3rd level here. We can move that up to extensive, which will then offer us vocabulary from a larger database, including more advanced vocabulary. Or we could put it down to simple, which will then only offer us words from a list of 200 high-frequency words. So we can adjust the kind of vocabulary the predictor is offering based on the vocabulary the student is likely to need. We can also decide how many words we'd like the predictor to offer at any one time, a maximum number. So that's set to 6 here. And we can choose whether the predictor offers us words before we type into the document with suggest next word. So if we untick that box, the predictor will only offer us words when we start to type into the document. Spell check settings. So we can choose to turn off the spell check and the automatic capitalization here. Now, that's something that you can turn off as part of exam mode. So if that's an exam specific setting you want to turn off, you can do that in exam mode rather than here, but it's useful to know that it's an option outside of exam mode. If we go to display, we can change the background and the text color in our document, and we can change the background and text color for our predictor and spell check as well. Okay. In access, we can change the access method. So currently it's set to mouse and keyboard or touchscreen, but we can set up eye gaze or switch access instead. Okay. So those are the different settings that we can change for our students. And then to change DocsPlus and change what's enabled and disabled to meet exam requirements, we can go to exam mode. Okay, so the first time you set up exam mode, you'll need to go to set up password, and you'll need to enter your serial number, and you'll need to select a password. After that, you enter your password. Let's make sure I'm spelling it correctly. And that then allows you to turn exam mode on or off. When the password has been entered, you can also change the options. So you can choose which features are disabled. So we haven't looked at word bars and workspaces today. Those are not typically allowed as part of access arrangements, but I will talk a little bit about them very soon before the end of the webinar. I've got the doc reader enabled, so that's how we can access our PDF. I've got the speech enabled. I've disabled suggestions so you can see what that would look like, but spell check is enabled, and so is editing the different settings. So as soon as I select OK, you can see it's popping up asking me if I want to save any of these files, because it's going to close them automatically. So I'm not going to save any of this. Okay. And you can see exam mode now appears down here at the bottom of the screen to confirm that exam mode has in fact been turned on. So I can now close DocsPlus and reopen it. I can turn my computer off and on again. Whenever I open DocsPlus, it's still going to be in exam mode until I go back into options and enter that password again. So it's going to stay in exam mode now. While I'm in exam mode, it is creating a backup of the document. So if something did happen to the computer, you would be able to recover the student's work. It's also worth noting, if I type in a quick sentence, do you like that sentence, that example sentence? When we go to print, you should just about be able to see that it has automatically added the date and numbered the pages for me. And I'm also prompted to fill in some key details. So if I put in my name quickly, it is adding in my name to my header. So that will be added to every page that I have in this document. So I don't need to add all of those details to each page individually afterwards. Okay, let's just come out of that and let's have a look at those settings in the DocsPlus app. Okay. So to change the settings in the DocsPlus app, we go to the cog icon up here in the top right. So we've got different settings that we can change. So for general settings, we've got the document defaults. These will affect any new document that you create. If you need to, you can also change the region your DocsPlus app is set to. In speech, we can adjust the speed of the voice with this slider here, and we can change the voice here. So I've got Rachel, but if I go to more, I do have other voices that I can download. Here, I can change when DocsPlus speaks. In tools and controls, I can change which tools I have available to, including sound shift. So this is the tool I mentioned earlier that allows us to hear words in the spell check and the predictor read out. So this is what the predictor looks like on the iPad above the on-screen keyboard. This button here is sound shift. On an iPad, we can tap that button and then tap words to hear those words read out. So it allows us to still access that speech feedback. Suggestions. So here we can change how many words are offered by the predictor and the spell check, how large they're displayed on the screen. Again, we can turn spell check on or off and automatic capitalization, but that's something that can also be done in exam mode. And we can turn off that predict next word. So we need to type before any words are offered by the predictor. If I go to exam mode, one thing to bear in mind, so when we're changing features on the PC, we're choosing which features are disabled. When we're changing these settings on a Chromebook or an iPad, we're choosing which features are allowed, which are enabled. So again, I've disabled word bars, but I've kept the predictor, spell check and speech turned on. I have turned off the doc reader just so that you can see what that would look like. This is where another difference comes in. So if I go to activate exam mode, each time we activate exam mode, we can use a different password. Okay, so we fill that in every time. We have to put it in twice and then activate it. Okay, and you can see I've got a little countdown here now. So unlike the PC version, which remains on until we turn it off, on a Chromebook or an iPad is active for 24 hours. And after that, it will deactivate, or we can choose to deactivate it at a set time by putting our password in again. So you can see I've still got the predictor available to me here. I can turn that on or off, but I disabled the doc reader, so I cannot access the doc reader. I can only access the documents. Okay. I've also got exam mode on appearing up here, just to confirm that we're definitely in exam mode. Okay, so we've just got a couple of minutes left, and I just want to go over a couple of the other features that are available in DocsPlus that aren't part of exam access, but are part of how a student might be using DocsPlus on a daily basis as part of their normal way of working. So we've seen mention of workspaces and word bars. Workspaces are a really nice, simple to use mind mapping tool. They're great for encouraging students to plan out and develop their ideas before starting a piece of writing. So really great for encouraging students to think about the structure of a piece of writing and their response. Word bars offer subject-specific vocabulary to be used in writing. So this, again, is really useful for encouraging students to use that wider range of vocabulary and to practice applying it. So all great preparation and foundations for performing as well as possible in their exams. So I'll just show you a quick example of these resources. So I've got a workspace here on migration. It's an example of something a student might have put together over the course of several lessons. We've got lots of great vocabulary here in this tab. We can access push factors and pull factors. And on this final tab, we're starting to build up a kind of case study of the impacts of migration. So you can see we've got a lot of planning available here. We can take all of this planning, this mind map, and we can turn it into a word bar. So we can do that by going to this button just here and choosing Create Word Bar. I'm not going to change any of these settings, just click OK. And I've now got all of that great vocabulary available beneath my document to help me with my writing. I've got speech support here as well, so I can right-click.
Better quality of life.
To hear those words read out. And I can click the words to add them into the document. Now I can create those resources from scratch, and it's easy to do. But if we go to the folder icon up here, and choose Learning Grids. We've also got a bank of pre-made, ready-to-use DocsPlus resources, both word bars and workspaces, for lots of different subject areas available here to use. A key area in particular that I always recommend is writing frames and planners. And this is great across the curriculum. We've got things like essay planners here, Peel sentence starters, vocabulary for personal statements, writing frames for different styles of writing. So again, all contributing to a really strong foundation for students to be able to perform as well as possible in their exams and have that support available to them in lessons. Okay, so we have now come to the end of the webinar. I do hope you found it useful. I've just put our contact information on the screen again for you now, in case you have any questions going forwards. If you do still have questions, please do continue to add them to the Q&A. We will still be available for a little longer, but if you do need to go, that's absolutely fine. When you leave the webinar, a survey will open up in your browser. We'd really appreciate it if you could just take a couple of minutes to fill in that survey so we can continue to offer high quality webinars. But as I said, I do hope you found this webinar useful and have a lovely rest of your day.